and went, and Rita gave birth to a bouncing baby boy. From the moment she set eyes on the newborn child, it was very clear to her that the child was not her grandchild. The newborn was a carbon copy of Toby. She shook her head in bewilderment. Even Ifeanyi could not help but notice the similarity in the facial features of the child and that of Toby, and he pointed this out to Rita. Well, Rita quickly laughed it off. Honey, what did you expect? Toby is my brother. That is why our child looks so much like him, she said with a smile. Even though this answer was not really satisfactory, somehow Ifeanyi saw no reason to doubt his wife's faithfulness. Only she shook her head. She could see clearly that Rita had Ifeanyi firmly in her grasp. Well, just 5 months into the arrival of this child, something happened. One afternoon, Oluchi was woken up by the cry of the baby. When the insistent cries of the child had gone on for some time, Oluchi had to go into the main building to check on him. There the child was, in his crib, crying his eyes out. Oluchi was surprised and looked about, wondering the whereabouts of the mother. She carried him, but the cries did not stop. She was really worried and started walking towards the bedroom section in search of Rita, all the while murmuring about the carelessness of all these new generation mothers. At the bedroom door, Oluchi wanted to knock, but then a sound from within made her froze. She had to listen for the second time to be sure of what she just heard. The sound coming from within was unmistakably that of a man who could be in the bedroom with Rita. She thought to herself. She knew Ifeanyi was off to work. The sound was like two people in a heated argument, accompanied by a continuous quaking sound from a bed. Oluchi could not hold herself anymore. Overwhelmed by curiosity and following her instinct, she pushed the door open without knocking, where the sight that greeted her eyes made her stop dead in her track. Right there before her on the bed was Rita and Toby. They were serving it hot to each other with reckless abandon. Clearly they were in another world. It took them some time to notice the presence of Oluchi, and of course, as should be expected, the moment they noticed her, all hell broke loose. They were clearly terrified. Rita fell on her knees, pleading with Oluchi not to tell Ifeanyi what she just saw. Toby hurried out of the bedroom, confused and devastated. Oluchi just did not know what to say. She dropped the child gently on the bed and left the bedroom outside to cool her head. There was no doubt all of Rita's pleas had fallen on deaf ears. She was obviously telling Ifeanyi, her son, of all her eyes just saw. It was already late before Ifeanyi got back home from work. Even from the boys' quarter, Oluchi could hear Rita's voice. She was crying loudly. There was some commotion in the main house. Oluchi was very sure Rita had, of her own accord, owned up to the abomination she committed earlier that day. Where Oluchi was soon urgently summoned into the main house, only to be met with a big surprise. There Rita was, crying profusely and pointing an accusing finger at her. Oluchi was taken aback and short of words, wondering what was happening. She is the one. She stole the stack of dollar notes and my gold jewelry from our bedroom. She made this accusation while pointing at Oluchi and crying some more. Ifeanyi stood there, confused and angry, not knowing what exactly to do. At this point, Oluchi could not keep quiet anymore. My son, your wife is accusing me falsely. She is telling all these lies because earlier today, I caught her red-handed making out with Toby in your bedroom. Oluchi dropped the bombshell. Ifeanyi just could not believe his ear. He looked at Rita accusingly, his eyes red from anger. And to this, Rita broke down in tears. Your mother is accusing me falsely. Oh, what a wicked woman. She started crying some more. At this point, Ifeanyi had had enough of this drama.
Mama, we have to check your bedroom so I can be sure you are not lying about all this,
he declared. Well, Oluchi was more than happy to show them to her bedroom. She was very sure nothing would be found in her bedroom, since she had not stolen any of Rita's items. Rita, Oluchi and everyone else stood outside, while only Ifeanyi, along with the gateman, went to the boys' quarter to search Oluchi's bedroom. In just less than 5 minutes, Ifeanyi came out of Olushi's bedroom Fumi. He was owing a wad of cash along with a gold jewelry which belonged to his wife. Olushi's jaw dropped in disbelief. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She had no idea how the money and jewelry got into her bedroom. A smirk appeared on Rita's face, which she quickly covered up with her tears. Sweetheart, hope you cannot see that your mother has been falsely accusing me all this while. She is a thief and a witch who don't want to see us happy, she told him while shedding some crocodile tears. At this point, Ifeanyi was furious with his mother. He ordered her to leave his house immediately. Olushi fell on her knees, crying and pleading her innocence, but all her cries fell on deaf ears. Ifeanyi was convinced that his mother had been plotting evil against his family. And despite the fact that it was late and it was already raining heavily, Ifeanyi pushed his mother out of his house with not a penny to her name, and to the mercy of the elements and all of the dangers lurking in the dark. The rain beat down heavily on her as she left the estate as someone else was in. She walked aimlessly, not knowing where to go. The tears flowed freely down her face. All desire to keep on living left her. What is there to keep living for? Her son, which was her only source of hope, had betrayed and forsaken her. At this very moment, the urge to unalive herself weighed heavily on her shoulder. She saw a vehicle coming in her direction, and without thinking twice, she threw herself into the road. The last thing she could remember was the last creaking sound of tire and horn blaring. She later woke up in the hospital, weak but okay. A bandage was tied around her head and hand. Seated beside her was a young man, neatly dressed in cultural attires, with a broad smile on his face. He whispered to others, out of her sight, that she was finally awake. Even though Olushi was still too weak to move, she could hear the excited whispers from others in low tones. She soon drifted back into sleep. Oluchi stayed in the hospital for a couple of months. Each day, this young man made it a point of duty to pay her a visit. Sometimes he would come with his family. They made sure she was given the best care she needed for a quick recovery. Soon, Oluchi was strong enough to leave the hospital. The young man who had been tending her all this while offered to take her to his house. At home, the young man, who she later came to know to be Jude, asked her the question that has been bothering him all this while.
Mama, you threw yourself in front of my car. What could be the matter? What grief could be so great to make you want to throw away your life?
He asked her with a look of worried concern on his face, and to this, Oluchi, with tears streaming down her face, narrated her life story to him. By the time she got to the part whereby Ifeanyi drove her out of his house into the rain, there was no dry eye in the house anymore. Everyone was crying, both Jude, his wife, and kids.
Mama, your days of suffering are over.
He started, wiping her tears with a handkerchief.
I am an orphan. I lost both my parents when I was just a boy and suffered great deal in the hands of those who raised me. I did not enjoy the privilege your son got. I have to try to get to where I am today. I am very wetty today, but I have no parents to share any of my wet with. Please, if it pleases you, I want you to adopt me as your son. I promise to take very good care of you for the rest of your days.
He told her. Oluchi, of course, was very happy, and they all embraced her, both Jude, his wife, and the children, who were visibly excited to have such a lovely grandma. Oluchi just could not believe her eyes. God had come through for her and given her a welcoming family after her own biological son abandoned her. The children were particularly fond of Oluchi. In the evening, they would sit about her, eager to hear her stories. She was a very good storyteller. As if her blessings were not yet enough, the following week, Jude made the announcement that he was flying Oluchi to the white man's land for their big doctors to repair her skin. She could not believe her ears. And just as he had promised, he flew her off for the surgery, and it was a huge success. Oluchi returned back into the country, glowing and radiant, and to be met with yet another big surprise. You took her to a big supermarket at the heart of the city. He had set it up for her so she could earn her own living. This gift also came with a house, a car, and a dedicated driver to take her anywhere she needed to go. Oluchi almost fainted out of excitement. She just could not stop the tears from flowing freely down her face. These were tears of joy. She, who was once called a witch by everyone, including her own biological son, had now become a woman of great means. All thanks to her new family, she embraced Jude happily. Just like so, 20 years had gone by. One weekend, while Jude and his family stopped by to pay Oluchi a visit in her home, someone came knocking. Jude opened the door, only to be greeted by a haggard-looking man dressed in worn-out clothing, most of his hair grey, clearly not from old age, but from extreme hardship.
Tell Mama that Ifeanyi, his son, is looking for her.
He told him while avoiding his gaze. Jude was taken aback, but then he quickly remembered the story Oluchi told him several years ago. When Oluchi learnt of Ifeanyi's presence, she was really angry and was not ready to see him. But Jude was able to convince her to at least give him an audience. The moment Ifeanyi was allowed inside and he set eyes on his mother, he knelt down and started crying profusely while begging for her forgiveness.
Mama, please forgive me. I've been a very foolish and selfish son.
He started while crying. He went on to tell everyone his story after he drove his mother out of his house that night. It was not long before he discovered that truly Rita, his wife, had been cheating on him. He had hurried back from work earlier than usual due to some documents he forgot, only to meet Rita and Toby in his matrimonial bed having a good time. He was mad and got into a fight with Toby, and in the process he took a kitchen knife and unalived Toby. By this time, Rita, who had run out of the house with her child, quickly raised an alarm. He was soon arrested and charged to court. The judge found him guilty and was sentenced to many years in jail. He came out 2 years ago after a new government granted him and some other prisoners parole, only to be met with the news that Rita has sold everything he once owned and relocated out of the country with Toby's child.
Mama, I have really suffered. I have been looking for you for the past 2 years. I know I'm suffering this because of what I did to you. Please forgive me and take me back.
He told her while crying profusely. Oluchi opened her mouth, but no words came out, just tears streaming down her face. If you are in Oluchi's shoes, will you forgive Ifeanyi and accept him back after all he did? Share your thoughts in the comment section.